What makes great campaigns?
I think the simplicity is what makes it special.
Does also require huge budgets for some of these things?
It's important. Okay, not all films can come with huge budget, but I think every script, the way it's thought, deserves a certain budget.
Scale up business that Yaap does.
If I could just talk your numbers, we would be about 170 to 200 crores of top line. Among our top clients are Dubai Tourism, we work with Rupee, we work with UPI, we work with Adani Group, we work with Jindal Stainless Steel, we work with SBI Cards, work with Startup India, we work with Niti Aayog for almost 5 years. But can somebody create $1 billion company in this space in the next 5 to 7 to 8 years? Very possible.
How do you see Gen AI sort of factoring our line of business? Could be advertising, creative work.
I think we are going to be one of the industries that's going to get disrupted the most. We want to see how we can use AI to better internal efficiency.
That's organization building.
Whether it's workflow management.
Any interesting Indian media platforms you've come across you think could be a game changer or winner?
I've not come across a single thing where the media platform is this. When TikTok got banned, we saw all platforms being this. They're nowhere to be heard right now. We'll be very happy to go and work for a Facebook or a Google as great engineers. I'm more into my sneakers.
How big is the collection?
My collection is huge. I've stopped counting it. It's clearly one of the largest collections that I know of. Even though I was 22, I had grey hair. It was very late.
Okay.
And he entered and he said that, you're hired. He didn't even talk to me. And the fact that you have grey hair, it's great. So the first 3-4 years of my experience in advertising was on Philips. And it was the golden years of Philips. We had Sachin Tendulkar as the brand ambassador. We had Aishwarya as the channel Sony Max. So we did a outstanding campaign for that. And we came up with this whole line of Diwana Bana De.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Sell-Side Conversations. Our guest today is Atul Hegde. Atul is a media and advertising veteran, having worked with companies such as MediaTurf, which is Ignite, Euro RSAG, among others. Atul also happens to be India's biggest sneakerhead. In a conversation with Atul, we'll talk about the various brands he's worked upon and the Yaap story. Hi Atul, welcome to Sell-Side Conversations. It's a pleasure having you here.
It's an absolute pleasure. I've been watching your previous episodes. I think you guys have been doing a great job. Some of them friends of mine who've appeared on this podcast. What I really liked is, the way you guys dwell into the details. I think it gives a great insight into that personality who's part of your podcast. And it's also some great learnings. So I thoroughly enjoyed some of the episodes that I watched.
Perfect. Thank you for those kind words. So Atul, we've got a lot of ground to cover today. So let us start off with at the beginning. Let's sort of go into your childhood. What kind of a student were you? Your education, some background.
Yeah. So I come from a typical Indian middle class family, very well educated. So all my cousins went on to become engineers and doctors. So like a good South Indian family, my parents also wanted me to pursue that. I was very good with my studies, always a top ranker, but somehow never wanted to follow the same path, wanted to do different things. As luck would have happened, I didn't secure enough marks in the exams that actually matter, which are the board exams, and which is why, I was no good. I couldn't get a seat in medical, which is a big relief for me, a big letdown.
I'm sure not for your parents though.
Big letdown for my parents. And then I started doing science, following in Bombay. I was in Elphinstone College. I was specializing in physics.
Okay.
And that was of great interest to me. But, fate has different things in store. I used to live in Malad, go all the way to Churchgate for my college. So it was a long 1-hour journey. And the favorite pastime at that point of time was to read the afternoon newspaper.
Okay.
It was a daily that used to come.
Was it the midday?
So you had midday and you had afternoon. So we were the two ones that. And on one such journey, when I think I was almost completing college, I saw a very interesting ad. And it was by Ronnie Screwwala's company. I think it was called Unilaser, his original company. And it was a little ad which said University of Advertising. And you could apply and they had a task and all of that. So I had no background about advertising. I had nobody.
You were a physics student.
So I had no relatives who were there, no friends, nothing from that. And I applied to them and they sent this huge assignment, which sounded very interesting. They wanted me to create a soap brand.
Acha.
And how will I sell it? And I loved that assignment. I did a very nice thing. I remember those days was those dot matrix printers.
Okay.
So I took out those printouts from that and mailed it to them. Then I forgot. After a month, I got a call from Shumit Roy, who was running this. Shumit is a very well-known personality in advertising, especially in coaching in advertising. So I got a call from his office. They wanted to meet me. I went and met him, and they said that, we are starting this course where we are going to pick, I think, 5 or 6 kids and train them practically for a year,
Okay.
where you will work on live assignments with ad agencies. Okay, so this was an office in Worli. I remember that same building had Nexus Equity at that point of time, and they said you're selected. Not only that, they also said they're going to give me some stipend.
Oh,
At that
wonderful.
point of time was unbelievable. And it was supposed to be a 12-month course. As luck would have it, I had spent 2 months and it was great. We did some films, production work. We worked with agencies like, at that point of time, it was called Chaitra. We went on to become Leo Burnett. We did some work with Nexus, which is now Enterprise. I mean, Nexus Enterprise joined. But within 2 months, um, I Shumit calls me and says that, there is this gentleman Ishan Raina who was working with Contract at that point of time. Contract was agency of the year, blah blah blah. And said he's starting a new agency and he's looking for a office assistant, like his EA
Okay.
kind of a thing, but at a very trainee level. You should go and meet him. So I said okay. So I thought it's some assignment that I'm going for. So I went and met him. He enters the room, and I even though I was 22, I had gray hair. It was very native.
Okay.
So and he entered and he said that you're hired. He didn't even talk to me.
Without even discussing.
Yeah, he said,
interviewing me.
we need serious-looking people in our business, and the fact that you have gray hair, it's great.
Okay. So you work to your advantage.
And he was setting up this exciting company, EuroRSCG, a French company coming into India. This was 1995, late 95. And it was absolutely amazing. He was hiring the best of talent. So I got to work in my early days. Suman Srivastav was my boss, one of the best in the advertising industry.
He's also a good friend of mine as well.
So Ryan and Sippy were the creative heads. Again, Ryan had just won his first Cannes at SSC and B Lintas. So Vishal was putting together this complete A team. There was a lot of buzz in advertising circles that there's this French company coming in. They have this fancy office with a swimming pool. It was nothing like that. We were actually working out of a makeshift office which belonged in famous studio, near famous studios in Mahalakshmi, which was Ishan's friend's office. But the experience that I got working with these guys was absolute fabulous. And Suman, who was my first boss, and he was my super boss. Uh, I mean, he recognized that there's much more potential to me than just doing office work. He got me into client servicing within 6 months of them starting the
So he
office.
spotted a talent in you that good at.
Absolutely, and just the fact that Suman, a great strategic planning mind, but most importantly, one of the best humans I know.
True.
And in your early days, when you get somebody like that as a mentor, it makes a big difference. And I'm a firm believer that all my successes later happened because of the kind of bosses I worked with. They were just fantastic human beings, and that made a big difference.
Absolutely.
And Philips was the big account that moved because it had moved to EuroRCG worldwide, which is why EuroRCG was setting up in India.
Okay.
Primarily for Intel and Philips. Intel was handled out of the Bangalore office. Philips was handled out of the Bombay office. Philips was brand of the year in 1995 in the ad.
So back in if I'm in 90s.
It was big. So it had the audio was very big, color TV was very big, and that was the account that was moving into this. So the first 3-4 years of my experience in advertising was on Philips. And it was the golden years of Philips. It was a client in Pune. 3 days a week, I used to take the train from Dadar and go to Pune to meet the client. Can't imagine a better brand, a better set of people in the agency, a better set of people from the client side.
And those were the pre-digital era. So print and television were the
Absolutely, it was
movie over
television,
there.
print, outdoor led. My baptism by fire was to create those dealer panels for Philips ads.
Acha, dealer panel.
Every ad had a dealer panel with 100 dealers. You couldn't get one phone number wrong, because if you got even one digit wrong, because that was the only way for customers to call,
Correct.
right? And that was business, and you had to check that artwork. In the whole era there, and I had fantastic mentors. I had Rajan Patel, who was head of production. I think he was the most literate production person in the industry. He had just moved from Lintas, educated in Germany with the best of print and technology that he knew, setting up new systems. So URSCG that way was fantastic. Everything was new, cutting edge. Everybody carried laptops during that point of time. I mean, it was a very, very different culture. And the brand was fantastic to work on. We had Sachin Tendulkar as the brand ambassador. We had Aishwarya as the brand ambassador.
This was Philip, right?
For Philips. And we worked with the best of talent. Prahlad was doing most of our films. You cannot expect a better training ground for a fresher with no advertising background. And I did extremely well, both from a client point of view, agency point of view. Suman and Nishan ensured that I was promoted and double promoted. I think within 6-7 years was pretty much leading that office with whatever I could have done. And it was a great stint. It was a great learning, and it happened. I don't think such moments happen. It was serendipity. You saw an ad on a train, and you went and you went and you went into a career which you had no background in. And then you were lucky to work with professionals who were top grade.
Accidentally stumble upon something and you hit the jackpot over there.
Absolutely. So those days were, I mean, amazing. And it was not just about my boss or my super boss. Almost everybody that I worked with in that.
That was a golden era of Indian advertising, right?
Absolutely.
All the iconic campaigns that we see from Saruf, Liril, all these Nirma, all those were created in that era.
That was a little earlier. 90s was still good, but you're right. I mean, by the end of 90s, early 2000, most of great advertising was pretty much done. And then it was few and in between. But yeah, so that was like the first stint, which was a good 7-8 year stint. After that, I moved on to a very different thing, which was a very small boutique design agency led by this amazing creative professional, Preeti Vyas Chineti. I think she was one of the best art persons in the country, doing very niche work. That gave me exposure to building brands, brand identity, packaging, the design world of it.
Any notable campaigns that
Aditya Birla was one of the most brilliant. We did that entire transformation for Aditya Birla Group. There was a campaign that was launched, which was taking India to the world.
okay.
Absolute fantastic. In fact, before that in URSCG, since we are doing this podcast now and L&T is in the news, I think the best L&T campaign ever, and they still use that line now, was a film that we did with Ram Madhwani. During that time, it was basically these three kids in a train, and the train was shot on the newly built Konkan Railway,
Okay.
which was that Bombay Goa thing. So they're going in that compartment, in that train, and this little kid keeps seeing various things, large buildings, bridges, and keeps saying, "Ye mere papa ne banaya hai."
Acha, I think
You know,
I've
and,
never seen that.
and the other, it's one of the most iconic ad. And the other kids think that this kid is fibbing. And then they come, they see the L&T factory, and the other kid says, "Oh, ye bhi tumhare papa ne banaya hai." He says, "Nahi, mere papa yahan kaam kar."
काम करते हैं, अच्छा.
And there was this line which says, "हम बनाते हैं वो देश की शान है वो." So even L&T uses now, we make things that make India proud. We use that line even now.
The tagline still remains the same.
Yes, so it's a fantastic campaign that we did at that point of time. And then at VGC, it was the Aditya Birla campaign, the first big global campaign. I think it was the biggest production ever done during that time.
This was a rebranding of the
Rebranding.
rebranding at
Completely rebranded.
maybe in the early 2000s, maybe.
Yes, as ABG, the whole positioning of taking India to the world, it was the real Indian conglomerate that was present across the world. We wanted to tell all the industries we work in. Massive campaign. It went on for, we did two versions of it, went on for 3, 4 years. So I had, I think, about a 3.5, 4 year stint there. While I was there,
So, Atul, one question is a follow-up question. Now, you mentioned a bunch of things, campaigns that you worked upon, and some of them are iconic in nature and still stand the test of time. What do you think made them special?
I think,
What makes great campaigns?
yeah, I think the simplicity is what makes it special, right? Simple idea, very focused. I think at a script stage from an agency part, that's the most critical thing. Then the filmmaker takes it to the next level. So to get the right filmmaker to work on your script, as an agency, you can develop the script, you understand the band, keep it simple, very, very pointed. You look at all the iconic advertising, right? Very focused, very sharp, very simple at heart. So you see the very quick ads and all, very simple at heart, but they stay on with you for years. But then you need a great filmmaker to bring it alive.
Got it.
So when you get these ingredients right, like today also, very difficult for you to actually see your script and say this is going to be great. So that combination of having a great script and then a great filmmaker to bring it alive, extremely, extremely important.
Does it also require huge budgets for some of these things, or is budget a secondary factor?
I wouldn't say it's second, it's important. Okay, not all films can come with huge budget, right? But end of the day, it's about the idea, it's about the treatment that it deserves. But I think every script, the way it's thought, deserves a certain budget. So you cannot have a script that deserves a certain budget and then try to do it much lower than that. That will never work. So budget is important, but not this. I think the first two ingredients are the most important.
Were you ever in a situation where the client has liked the idea, but the budgets are tight, and you to convince him, listen, if you got to cough up more? Were you ever in a situation?
All the time. That's something that we're doing for the last 2.5 decades, right? That doesn't change.
That doesn't-
Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't win, right? See, also you have to understand when we do hundreds of campaigns today, when I'm talking to you, when I look behind almost 3 decades, I can only talk about maybe 7, 8, 10 of them. Right, which also shows that not every campaign can be great. So yes, so with this, it's a constant struggle. With some brands, it's not. With like when we work with ABG, Mr. Birla was very clear. Kumar Mangam wanted the best of the lot. So we went and got the best technicians in the world. We shot across Europe. I mean, we got the best CGI artist in Israel. There was no expenses paid.
Got it.
And it showed when you did that because he said that I'm building a global company. I need to show that.
Absolutely.
But it really worked. But some of the great films we've done, there's another great campaign that we did in Euro RSCG was for the channel Sony Max.
Okay. I mean, Suman was at Sony at that point of time, correct?
Suman was at Euro RS.
You were servicing Sony.
Yes. So we did a outstanding campaign for that. So with Sony Max, the insight was very clear. It was a cinema channel. But it also had now started buying cricket rights.
Correct.
So it also started showing cricket. So we said Bollywood and cricket are two things that unite India. And we came up with this whole line of Diwana Bana De.
Oh.
And I think they still use it. It's still, I think, Sony Max Diwana Bana De. And we had a great campaign where we had this little kid coming to bowl at Kapil Dev. So this is almost shot in like one of the chawls in Bombay. Beautifully done. Pranad had done this film. And it was a great hit. I mean, if you now you look at it, it's brilliant. So that whole campaign for Sony Max was again extremely memorable. Aditya Birla was play scale, large scale. Preeti had her own distinctive style that she brought onto it, and it was a client who really wanted the global best. And he was working with a very niche partner. We were not one of the Ogilvies or the Lintases of the world that we were doing that. So again, a very different experience over there. And so there I was there for, I think, for about 3.5, 4 years. While I was there, during my last stint, last few months, Pradeep Guha, who was a client of mine, we used to work with him on the Times of India brand. He told me that they are putting together a trip to go to Silicon Valley.
Okay.
Okay. This was maybe 2003, 2004. I might be missing this. And he said there are about 20, 25 CEOs that is putting together and doing this entire thing. I think because under the aegis of IAA,
International Advertising Agency.
I think so. If I'm not, or triple A, I think one of the two. Pradeep, I think, was head of I at that point of time. And I went on that trip with him and some of the other this. 7 weeks we spent in Silicon Valley. We did San Francisco and we did LA. At that point of time, Yahoo was huge. So we visited Yahoo. We visited Jerry Yang himself came and met us.
Okay, interesting.
We went to the Google campus. YouTube was just acquired by Google at that point of time. It was still very small. We met the YouTube founder. We went to the Facebook campus. We went to Disney in LA. We went to Microsoft in Seattle. At it just changed my perspective. Right? These were the early days. Facebook was maybe 3 years old. Google maybe was 4, 5 years old. All of them wanted to meet Indian advertising heads because they knew that that market at some point is going to come. Right? And those 7 days completely changed my life going ahead. I was very clear that digital is it, while it was very nascent at that point of time. I came back. Again, I found opportunity.
Basically, you spotted the opportunity in that went it over there.
I got an opportunity to go and head Media Turf. At that point of time, they had just gone through, they were the first digital marketing agency at that point of time. But they had gone where the entire team had left and gone and founded Interactive.
Interacting is correct.
Natish and team. And so they wanted to rebuild. It was a great opportunity there. And so I went back. I think within 3, 4, 5 months, I moved on to digital. The best decision I've taken. Still, it took another 7, 8 years in India for digital to really
Mainstream.
mainstream. But the fact that I got into it so early, made a huge difference. And that's how the whole digital journey began. MediaTurf went through lots of rebranding. It became ConnectTurf, and then I rebranded it to Ignite.
There were various avatars of Media Turf.
Yes.
In fact,
In fact, the Ignite office was just in the next building. And again, spent a very good 7, 8 years there. And again, a fabulous innings with them. And then from then, there was a completely different journey. I exited from there and I decided with this very close childhood friend of mine, I launched Rainmaker Ventures.
Okay.
Which was completely different from what we were doing. It was going to be a fund that was going to invest primarily in media, then also some non-media, all of that. So after spending almost 8 plus 8, almost like 20 years among these two, I've changed jobs only twice in my career.
Really okay.
That's it. And then started Rainmaker in 2006. And then from there, Yaap got funded. And then Oplify we acquired. And then this whole second stint in digital marketing, the last 7 years, began with Yaap coming into the fold. But before that, these were the companies that really was the foundation, very strong foundation in brand, advertising, building brands, then very design, spent 3, 4 years, hardcore design.
So then move to the Rainmaker for a bit. So what you said is media and non-media sort of startups that you invest. Any notable brands that
So it's mostly in the B2B space, which is why you will not that, but it's across categories that we've invested. But in the last 3 years, we've taken a conscious call that anything now we do, we'll do under Yaap. Because Yaap was getting scale. We acquired Oplify in Singapore, which is a programmatic media company. Now it's become a full-fledged media company. We acquired a company called SoNC Media, which was very small, but into influencer marketing at that point of time. We acquired Elephant Design Delhi, which was a JV between the Roy brothers and Elephant Design of Pune. It was called Planet Elephant in Delhi. They were working, it was again a hardcore design focused company. They were at that point of time working with Coca-Cola, Paperboat, all of that. So that's the one that we acquired at that point of time. Then we acquired Crayons Communications in the Middle East about 3 years back because we wanted to strengthen our UAE this. And now all these brands
under the Yaap umbrella.
Other than Oplify, which is an independent brand currently, rest everything has been merged in under the Yaap.
So Yaap is now the holding company.
Yes, Yaap is the holding company. Also, the significant brand across all our media companies. We currently have 2, 3 acquisitions lined up, which we will complete in the next 6 months. Again, the same model. We acquire it, they run independently with their brand names for a couple of years, and then they get merged into Yaap.
Got it. So it's a strategy of hybrid strategy of organic growth plus inorganic growth.
Absolutely,
That's what you
absolutely,
focus on.
absolutely. And also the way we've structured the app is very different. So we needed.
Can you talk
initially-
about the structure, because that's an interesting structure that you have over here.
Yes.
So
Yeah. So when we started off Yaap, right, it was maybe the 200th digital marketing agency being launched, right? So we were very clear that from day one, we wanted to build for scale. B, we wanted a clear differentiator. C, we wanted to attract talent that was entrepreneurial, but they were still in their professional journeys. Okay. And they were people, and we wanted people who would be here long term building something significant. See, one thing with all my experience I had learned is nothing large, significant of scale can be built in a hurry. You need people who will give at least a decade or more in building it. And we were not in a hurry to try and put together something and run. So the first fundamental thing that we did, which really, really helped us now in hindsight when we look at it, is the structure of Yaap. Yaap has no CEO. Right? We built it as a, like how you would have a legal partnership model, though it's a private limited company. The model was based on that. So we have senior partners and partners who run Yaap, who all of them report into me. But the uniqueness is that a senior partner is either defined by a expertise.
got it.
So when we acquired Elephant Design in Delhi, the founders joined us as senior partners.
Understood.
So they now run, one of them now runs, Vanjan Roy, who continues to be with us, runs the design vertical.
Understood.
So defined by expertise. Or when we acquired Crayons in Dubai, now so the CEO who was running it is now a senior partner. Now that senior partner is defined by a geo,
Understood.
right?
So what, specialization or a geo?
Absolutely. So when we acquired Oplify in Singapore, the founder now is a senior partner who runs the media wing for us.
Understood.
Right? So it's either defined by a geo or it's defined by an expertise. And that has really worked well, because what it does is it unleashes these entrepreneurs whom you have either acquired or organically they've grown with this. Manan Kapoor, for example, who runs the entire digital business for us, is a homegrown talent. He was with us in Ignite, then decided to move here. And pretty much one of the youngest managers who runs a business of this scale. I think he must be 35, 36. And pretty much being with us for almost a decade now across our companies. And so that is the kind of thing. So that address the first thing, right? See, one of the problems in this industry is, especially with independent agencies, is retention of senior talent.
Got it.
Right? So how do you get that? And we put all of this, and then we have now a holding structure where all of them are stakeholders in the holding structure, while each of them is building their own geos or their own expertise. And that we didn't know whether it will work or not. When we
Before the
started.
structure that you have, everybody's vested into it.
Absolutely.
I'm assuming everybody has some equity, and
Correct.
and that gives them the incentive to sort of stick around.
Incentive also, it helps them drive their own vision. They have the freedom to do what they would want to build, and that's really been the glue that has kept everybody together. Even after acquisitions today, they
Do you see
continue.
this kind of structure with some other agencies in some other part of the world, or it's
No, I had not seen this structure with any agencies. I had seen it in consulting firms.
Okay.
I had seen it in
law forms of first?
law firms. With agencies, I had not. Agencies, large networks have been typically built on acquisitions, or they've been around for 100, 150 years, and they have
Group of the world and W.
correct. They've just grown over a period of time. Or URCG, which was built on acquisitions. They acquired, I think, more than 30, 40, 50 brands. They wanted to run it as separate brand, but then at some point they all became this, and now of course it's become Hawas. So, but yeah, not founded in our structure. Also, a lot of lessons from working with networks, right? We didn't want those fiefdoms. We didn't want things that bring a network down. Like, I
What are the top three things that bring the networks down?
biggest is politics.
Or yeah,
Right. In fact,
there are people that politics.
I was at the session that Sir Martin Sorrell was speaking in Delhi last month, and somebody asked him exactly this, and he said, "Politics just kills network agencies," and I have seen that firsthand. You have a Bombay office head versus a Delhi office head versus a Bangalore office head or a Dubai head versus a Singapore head. They never have the same.
They never get along.
Absolutely. Plus, when you are coming there to do a job, you have your own agendas also, right? Somebody might be retiring after 3 years, or somebody might have an eye on some other location, some other promotion. These things drive it, right? And when you are very top heavy, that then becomes very
That can be a
that becomes very detrimental, right? So we didn't want to have that. Secondly, we wanted to have a single owner for a single client or a brand or a single expertise. Because again, when you see different offices, different branches, things like here, it doesn't matter today whether it's a Bombay account or whether it's a Northeast account or whether it's a Dubai account or whether this, it doesn't matter. You have a set of people who work on it. They could be in different geos. A lot of Bombay clients are serviced out of Delhi.
Delhi. Okay.
Yeah, because there's a relationship that's been built by a team over there, right? And vice versa. There are a creative team that's here that works on Delhi accounts. So that has worked for us.
This intermingling
Yes.
is,
So the
is
first phase of Yaap, which I say is the first 5, 6 years, it's now as we scale, we acquire more, we get more
So, can
companies.
you give a sense of the scale of business that Yaap does?
So
And the
current,
top profile clients that you have.
yeah. So currently, if I could just top your numbers, we would be about 170 to 200 crores of top line. This year is what we want to close. We would be about 125 people across 7 locations. We are present in terms of country. We are in Singapore, we are in India, we are in the Middle East, but about 70-75% of our business is in India. Among our top clients are Dubai Tourism. We work with RuPay, we work with UPI, we work with Adani Group, we work with Jindal Stainless Steel, we work with SBI cards, and about 30-40 of others. We work with Amway, we work with Del Monte.
So, a lot of these iconic brands are there.
Iconic-
But I know in my mind, somehow it was always a UPI, MPCI.
Because you see a lot of them,
A lot of them,
this
ad or digital client everywhere.
See, the other thing about digital marketing is a lot of it is invisible. It's so targeted and it only goes to that certain audience. Assam Tourism was one of our very this. We worked with them for 3 years. It was a mandate where we rolled out a global campaign with Priyanka Chopra. We did some fantastic films for them. That again was that. We also worked with some large national initiatives. So we worked with Startup India. We worked with Niti Aayog for almost 5 years. Doing a lot of stuff in the nation building aspect of it, creating communication, social presence for them, social assets. So that again was a big thing that we did across that. So it's a mix of clients.
Got it.
And again, I keep saying that, we've always been wanting to build a strong organization. Typically, if you look at independent digital agencies, they have expertise in one or two sectors. So you'll find an agency that does very well in media and entertainment.
Some of these agencies sometimes also have issue of scaling up. You may get a client or two here and there, but somehow find them sort of,
Yeah.
plateauing out.
So scaling is a huge issue, right? It's a huge issue in the independent side of this, right? If you look at networks, they have done this very well. They've scaled it.
But what is the secret sauce?
Yeah, also to be fair, those guys have had a lot of time, right? Here currently, and this is something that I'm very passionate about, and I wish we are able to bring together maybe some kind of a body for independent agencies in India. It could be offline agencies, it could be digital agencies, it could be anything in the ancillary space. One thing that they lack, and I've spoken about this multiple times, is they do not know how to leverage capital, how to access capital, how to manage your cash flows. Most of these are founder led, in their mid 30s, late 40s. They do very good work for their clients. They understand that. And some of the best innovation in digital marketing is coming from independent agencies. They're doing the work is far superior done from large network agencies. But what the network agencies have, which is strong financial principles, a good CFO, understanding treasury, understanding how to leverage cash flow, understanding how to access capital, all that is missing from independent.
But those structures for network agencies are built over time, right? These independent guys don't have this.
Absolutely.
Either they focus on getting the business or they focus on building organization.
All the focus is on pitching, winning business, and then figuring out how they can do great works. They do great job for their clients, but they do a great disservice in building their own organization. So I was doing this exercise and I was telling somebody about this. If you take the top 20, 30 names that you hear in independent digital marketing agencies, Just go to their ROC filings and you look at their numbers. And if you had to put a filter and say that I want to look at companies which have 10 crores plus EBITDA in India, in independent legends, you will be able to count them on your fingertips.
So really,
They're so far and few between. What you'll find lots of companies struggling within that 1 to 3 crores of EBITDA and lots of them in losses. What it tells you is that while the category is growing, right? It's the largest spending category today, digital. Fastest growing too.
absolutely.
Right? And you have so many digital agencies coming in. Very few have managed to scale. Right? And this needs to change if we really have to become a reckoning force when it comes.
So is there a scope for new agencies to come, because there are really so many of them? You think the market is so big?
The problem with our categories is no entry barriers.
True, there's no entry
Right?
barrier.
Two people, great professionals, can come together tomorrow, start an agency. Right? The differentiator comes when you have to build an organization. So, is there scope? There is. There is enough scope for somebody to come. But I think the largest scope here is building on scale. I think there's a great opportunity, and you will see that happening in the next 24 months of consolidation amongst independent agencies. Right? You need 3, 4 large players.
Question about access to capital. Now, when two independent folks come together and is trying to sort of get together, how will they access capital?
No, that's a completely different game, right? So for that, you will either have to hire a very good professional, you have to invest in a great CFO, right? Or you as a founder should be knowing about it. And it's very, very important to get your fiscal efficiencies and discipline in place. Access to capital is one of them. And today there are lots of avenues to access capital for MSME. Most of the digital companies are in the MSME space. There's hardly anybody in the larger thing, right? You can tap the capital markets, like Yaap will tap the capital markets very soon.
Oh, really? Okay.
So
Any timeline for that?
sorry,
Any timeline for that?
I would say max within the next 6 months. Should
Oh,
be
so it's within this.
yeah. Even this year, in this year itself, right? So if you do that, there are lots of schemes that the government has for MSME. There are lots of schemes for women founders. Even there are a lot of digital independent agencies which have women founders. There are schemes that the government has where you can actually get access to capital without collaterals into that, right? Better leveraging of your own cash flow, better management in terms of collections. See, one of the things that kills these agencies is cash flow management.
Absolutely.
And once that comes, it's a vicious cycle, right? If it catches on, some client has defaulted somewhere you're not.
The whole cycle breaks.
Once you go into that, then your focus from doing work for your client goes into crisis management.
I see that happening.
And then it just spirals. And it really depends how good a founder you are, what kind of network you have, what kind of personal assets that you have, which you are able to leverage on. But it's a downward slope, right? So, like one of the opportunities that I see for Yaap as somebody with a strong balance sheet, somebody who has access to capital, uh, is to see that how can we leverage this and acquire some great companies going ahead and build scale. We just about started off, right? At 135, 200 crores, you're still very, very small in the overall pie. But can somebody create a billion-dollar company in this space in the next 5 to 7 to 8 years? Very possible. Because today, you have to understand networks were built because clients were aligned for a long period of time. That is breaking now, right? Large
Means the clients who are aligned for audiences being just sort of
so somebody in New York decides that we are Pepsi and we will only work with WPP.
WP and
Somebody in Japan decides we are Toyota, we'll only work with Dentsu.
so that's a global mandate it becomes.
While these still continue in a large manner, two things are changing. Right? All these brands today want to work with the new age companies. So they do not restrict from sending out a brief to a company that's 6 months old. We were 3 months old when we won the global RFP for Dubai Tourism.
Oh, really? Okay, interesting.
In a row, and it continues to be a client for us. So that is a big that's changed. Even with large work, like the Indian government is one of the largest spenders on digital marketing. Even they today work with startups. They have changed their procurement policies. So that's a big advantage which is there. Secondly, the kind of talent that is available, because these are people who are very good talent who have broken away to start their own. So there's a lot that you can leverage and you can give to clients on this part of the business. So that is something that is helping. Indian brands are becoming big. I'm waiting for that day when when you have a large Indian brand, which will say I'm going to work with an Indian agency.
Correct.
How the Dentsus of the world were built, how the WPPs of the world were, where American companies said we only have to work with them, where Japanese companies said only or less. I'm hoping that in the next 4 5 years, you have some large Indian companies that wake up and realize that we have to work with true Indian companies, not multinational companies which also have an India presence.
Correct.
When if that starts happening, and when you have Indian companies that have presence across multiple countries, then you will be able to leverage.
So like the Tatas and Adanis, so they are present all over.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we work with all these names that you just spoke, and we're just hoping that next 5 7 years we are able to build where we have operations in 15 20 25 countries, where we are able to take all these brands to these countries.
So Atul, now let's sort of so let's also talk about the pitching process because that's an integral part of any agency. They win big accounts. So can you just talk us through some memorable pitches that you were involved in and what stood out?
So I
Those
think
pitches.
in my Ignite days, one of the most memorable pitches was for Maruti. Okay, this is digital. Maruti at that point of time, I think, had maybe about 7 8 brands, maybe 10 brands. Now they have a lot more, I believe. So now they've consolidated between Nexa and non-Nexa. We went, and Maruti was just starting the digital game, very big client at that point of time. And I remember having a conversation with Shashank Srivastava, who was heading Maruti's marketing at that point of time. And we went with one slide where we showed them the entire structure of how digital marketing will work for them, how we can consolidate clients, how we can consolidate various expertise that we can do for digital marketing. It was a deep conversation, but we managed to win that. And Maruti took a decision to consolidate all their brands with one digital marketing company.
Oh, that was
That
Ignite.
was Ignite. We worked with them for 3 years. The flip side of it, so it was a great experience for us. We didn't go with 100 slides, creative, nothing. We went with a very strategic approach. But we as an organization were not geared up to handle a client like that.
That has happened.
Yeah, I think we worked only with 3 years. Maruti realized they're too big to consolidate everything with one, and then they went back to that model of working with multiple agencies. But those 3 years, we did some great stuff. I remember the first time IPL came on YouTube. Maruti was the first sponsor, which we had engineered at that point of time. We did a lot of innovative stuff with them during those 3 years. It was a great learning. It was a great learning in terms of pitching. It's a philosophy that I continue till now, which is to just not go all out and show all your work at pitches and have a more strategic approach to it. But it was also a lesson which we ensured that when we built and started Yaap, is that there's no point getting a client before you're ready for it.
Correct.
Some clients you can grow with, and with an auto category client, it really helps grow in the business. But you have to invest and grow along with it.
So you got to have a brass tacks so they're ready.
Absolutely. Because agencies typically are understaffed. We try to do it on the fly. Once you get a client, you try to find solutions.
Indian jugaad system kicks in, right?
Yes.
So all of those things happen.
Absolutely. So that was one big learning, but it was, I think, one of my most memorable pitches where you could actually swing a business as big as that during those days, with a one slide presentation.
Wonderful. And on the flip side, any pitch that you lost which you thought you should have won? Or many of those?
We've lost so many pitches. I wouldn't remember anything in particular.
Or any memorable loss that taught you something in hindsight?
Actually, no. See, the beauty of the digital marketing business is that, there are so many opportunities around, right? That the losses are few and far because we don't pitch so much, right? And when we pitch in a certain manner. But I'm just trying to see, even in the earlier days, uh, maybe in my early advertising days, I'm just thinking if we tried to pitch, maybe I think we had a huge Airtel pitch that happened during the Euro RSG days. Maybe we
So
did
what are the key things in a pitch while pitching? What are the key things you remember while pitching?
I think the first, okay,
Because you said something interesting. You said you don't pitch as much.
yes.
And then that
I think
creative.
you have to walk into a pitch where the client has pretty much decided they want you, even before you have started.
How does it happen?
Lot of background work. Right? You have to be extremely selective. The client you're pitching for needs to know enough about you even before you entered the room. So cold calling, pitches, and all don't work. You need to have demonstrated some kind of work in that category or something where the client badly wants something that you've done, right? And I've seen this. I've seen this in large creative pitches before, where the client wants to work with an Ogilvy kind of an agency. It's just that they're going through the norms of having a pitch, right?
So there's a certain comfort in
Correct.
that this person or this agency will take care of my business.
Or you want to work, you like their work, something. So I think that preconditioning before a pitch is very important. Client knows enough about you, client has the right case studies about you, you're reaching them on other from other points. Also, client hears about you from other people in their network. Because that's the best way to position yourself, right? So half the battle needs to be done before you enter that room,
Got it.
right? You need to work on your own terms, right? Trust me, this whole thing of not getting what you want makes people want you more, right? And that's very, very important, right? So you need to set your terms very clear. You need to be very clear of what you're going to come and present, set the expectations very right. Of course, you need to do the groundwork, the basics, which is understanding the consumer, blah, blah, blah. I'm assuming, let's assume all that is equal
Correct.
among all the agencies pitching. But the pre part is very important, which very few people put in. Everybody wants to rush into a pitch. Agencies that will spend time
Pre-pitch.
will be far more
It's like a
successful.
preparation or execution.
Absolutely. It's like a movie is releasing, right, on that Friday. Before that, I do all the work. The same thing is for a pitch. Ensure that they hear about you. Ensure that they hear from you from different avenues. If you have a new business win, if you have a case study, ensure it reaches them. Do all of that so that when you have gone into that room, they've almost decided that they want you.
Correct.
Then you really underperform, you'll not get it.
Absolutely. So
Right?
there is some
So setting up for success versus setting up for failure in a pitch, because pitch is so random. There are so many opportunities, things involved. That doesn't mean every pitch we run like that, right? Even we are sometimes part of large pitches where there are 10 other people pitching and you don't know whether you want to get it or not. And we've seen whenever that happens, our percentage of success is very low. When we have done this very well, where there is like today we were having a conversation with a potential client and they said we are rolling out this pitch process, and now we told them we will not be part of that process, but we will come with you saying what is it that we can do for you. We'll not pay you any works, but we'll give you a strategic framework. We'll share examples in your category that we have worked with. That should be good enough for you to decide. Only if you're comfortable with that, then invite us. Now we are waiting. We don't know. They might not invite us. But if they decide to invite us, half the battle is won.
of the battle is won.
Right? Because everybody will come and do a whole song and dance, and we come with a very focused approach saying this is what it is. And because you have positioned yourself different from the others, you will always be evaluated differently. It might work in most cases, in some cases, it might not work, that's fine.
So it's a very strategic approach versus spray and pray kind of
We
approach.
also we are not that big, right? We are very constrained for people. Our policy has always been that let's work on existing clients because we will get business from there, right? So we also don't have that bandwidth that large agencies might have to run multiple pitches every month.
Cool. So now, Atul, let's also just sort of speak about some of your belief systems, some of your advice to young, because this podcast is listened by a lot of young professionals. So somebody who's studying out is, freshly made an MBA and is trying to get into media and advertising. What are the top 3 skills sets that a person should know
Yeah. So the biggest advantage
from
and
a career development point of view and skill set development point of view?
so from a skill set point of view, right? One of the of course, if you are in a creative person, then it's very specific. The disadvantage of advertising is that if you're not in creative, you don't need any specific skill set. Right? If you are street smart, if you're well read, if you have some of these things, you can be in advertising. That's an advantage and disadvantage both. What it does is brings in a lot of people whom you cannot evaluate at that point of time, but they've interviewed very well, they're doing very well, right? And then they do not invest in building a skill set. Right? Again, I'm talking outside creative because creative is very specific to a skill set where you can see the craft. But general management, strategic planning, if you look at all of this, social media executive, I think two, three primary things, but one which is for me is stands over and above everything is you have to be well read and well aware of what's happening around you. If you're in the communication and advertising business, you need to know what's happening around you. It might not be about advertising alone.
So we generally what's happening.
And that was a very, very rare skill to find in today's generation. People who have interest beyond scrolling, beyond this, who will want to understand what's happening, current affairs, and if you have that, you have an edge coming into this industry because that's a primary requirement here. You need to be well aware what's happening around you across topics, not just what interests you, not just what's happening on social media, right? That is extremely important.
You have a broad frame of view. The lens is sort of wide lens.
Absolutely. Second, interest beyond, you need to have 3, 4 passion points that has nothing to do with the field you're applying into. Right? So you want to do advertising and marketing, and if you're only passionate and interested, everything around that, you might be great. You might be good, but you will not be great. You need to have multiple passions that fuels and adds to your this. And that could be completely outside your line of work. So we try and look for that. The third thing we look for is intent, right? And again, very difficult to judge in an interview. And this is something that you come to know once they start working with you for 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Is how keen are you? Because advertising is all about unlearning, right? Because you work on multiple. In the morning, you might work on FMCG. In the afternoon, you might work on auto. In the evening, it might be something else. It might be a startup. That unlearning is very important. That how quickly are you able to adapt? And these are very difficult things to judge in an interview. But if anybody who's looking to enter this field, I would say the first thing after battle is one, just by being aware of what's happening around you, where
No, it's not funny, but when I spoke to Ashish Basin, he said the exact same thing.
Okay.
That you have to read a lot.
You have to just be aware of what's happening. So I'm not saying that read books and be well read. Just what's happening around you. Be well informed about that.
Correct.
Today, if you're reading a newspaper, don't just read sports. Don't read just the first paper. Just be aware of what's happening, and that is the best education that you will, because that is education every day. After your degree is done. Second, have passions outside your workplace. It could be anything. It could be cooking, it could be traveling, it could be reading, it could be sports, it could be anything, but have that and pursue it. You know. And the third is intent, but intent is something that can be built, that can be, it really depends from an individual. But these first two things are more important than anything else when it comes to general management in advertising.
Would you advise people who sort of have some experience, should they chase money or should they chase good work?
See, money will only come once you chase work. I mean, it's a no-brainer. There is no way you
But
can.
generally the
I'll give you an example. If you plot anybody's career over a 15-year period, person A, person B, person A has jumped jobs every 3 years. Right? That's chasing money. Versus person B who has spent time maybe in 2 organizations or 3 organizations in 15 years. Invariably, 9 out of 10, you will find that person who has spent time is now far ahead after 15 years down the line in terms of skill set, in terms of money, in terms of invariably. I'm saying there might be some exceptions,
God.
which is there, right? So chasing money is, how do you chase money? This is the only way you can chase money, right? You look after better jobs, you look after this. But if you are consistently pays in anything, even if you're investing today, right? If you're a consistent,
wait for
the cumulative effect is huge. That happens, right? Like I told you, nothing is built in a hurry. It's the same thing for a career. Nothing is built in a hurry. So if you work with the right kind of people, right kind of brands, right kind of organization, at some point, it just pays huge dividends.
So Atul, now our industry is going through a lot of changes with AI, generative AI, technology coming in and sort of disrupting almost every few years. How do you see Gen AI sort of impacting our line of business? Could be advertising, creative work. That's a given. But generally, what is your sense of the impact it will have in the near term future?
I think we are going to be one of the industries that's going to get disrupted the most with this. Having said that, you really need to figure out what to do with it, right? Like I hear a lot of agencies or things saying AI generated campaign. I mean, this is all fluff, right? It's early days. There is applications of AI across, right? So, for example, one of the things that we are doing here is we want to see how we can use AI to better internal efficiencies,
Okay.
right? Whether it's finance, whether it's HR,
So that's already been building.
whether it's workflow management. AI for creative generation is still very, very new. It's evolving. Of course, you cannot ignore it. It is going to change the way we do things, right? The combination of the right talent with the right AI is going to be exciting, right? We want to start building for it now, but we don't want to be in that space where we are rushing and saying that we use AI or we are using AI to create content. At best, today you're using to create images or to create some basic videos or to create some basic text or copy or for your
All
social
of
media.
those things.
It's very, very basic. If it's good, we involve it. But I think the real opportunities is using AI to build a strong organization. That's a huge thing. Generative AI for content is going to happen.
Are you seeing clients demand or ask what is the agency doing on the AI front?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I think it's still very early days. In fact, a lot of financial large clients have a lot of compliance issues.
Like
Who owns the IP rights? Who owns this? Can we actually put this up? So all those are some of the gray areas that still need to be tackled. Some clients, I mean, in the financial sector, have clear mandates that don't come to us with anything that's created by AI because it will go into a gray area with compliance. The marketing guys are not this with it. At the same time, there are brands who want to experiment, and rightly so. It's new. They want to see what's possible. I think the real winner here is if you know how to apply it for things beyond the obvious, right? And I think marketing analytics, for example, and so that's something that we are closely looking at, maybe an acquisition in that space, where you use AI for marketing analytics for large FMCG companies where there's lots of data sets available. Now, that's a great addition to the services that we're currently doing. And it could be far more than using AI in content creation at this point of time.
absolutely.
But yes, it's something you cannot run away from. It is going to disrupt our industry more than a lot of other industries, but it has a lot more application than just creating content.
Now, in the last few years, digital advertising or digital media space is growing, but I think 30% CAGR. You think this momentum is going to continue for the next few years, or
Yes.
or
The numbers might change by 5% here and there, but it's the largest medium already in India. It will have consistent growth. I see no reason why you will not get 17, 18, 20% growth year on year the next decade or so. Please understand the population, the way we are consuming digital, cost of consuming digital is so low, bandwidth costs are so low, huge mobile market, a huge market that consumes content, huge content creation country, whether it's films, whether it's YouTube, blah, 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 all of that. All of this will continue fueling. We are a market where print is still growing. We are a market that, so we love consuming content. As a country, we love doing that.
any interesting Indian media platforms you've come across you think could be a game changer or winner? Because most of the platforms are US based. Anything that you in your
not come
radar
across-
you've come across anything?
I've not come across a single thing where the media platform is this. We have lots of great large unicorn startups in other categories. But in India, I haven't. I mean, there are the InShots of the world who've done a
Correct.
great job. But as a platform where I would want to go, no. We have seen some Indian platform trying to replace Twitter and things like that. They've all shut down. When TikTok got banned, we saw whole platforms being this. They're nowhere to be heard right now. Okay,
What is that? Any
because we as a country are still not people who build products, right? We are a service country. We'll be very happy to go and work for a Facebook or a Google as great engineers, all of that. But building products is a completely different mindset. It needs also capital. We need long-term capital. We need capital that is risk averse, who's ready to bet on this. And we're still far away. Our ecosystem doesn't allow that, right? We can find short wins, significant wins in doing a lot of other things. right? So this will take time. I don't see any significant Indian grown platform becoming the next TikTok. I'm just giving TikTok as an
Exactly. I mean, there was
example.
so many copycats with TikTok.
Correct.
And almost everybody's virus about.
So they've all gone, and that because we as country don't build tech products. We're very happy helping build it, right? We have great engineers, but that will also change. It's also an evolution of this. But whether it will change in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, I don't know.
Gotcha. Only time will tell. Okay, so Atul, as we try to wrap up the session, can you just sort of give us your plans for Yap? How do you see it growing in the next 3 to 5 year time frame?
Yeah. So we have a very clear vision, right? We want to build a company of scale, which is also extremely good at what it does for its clients. Right? We don't want to do too many things. Right? In Yap, currently we work in three distinct services, what we call as design, discovery, and distribution, which is basically anything to do with design. Anything discoveries are primarily influencer marketing, and distribution is paid media planning and buying. So we're going to go deeper into this. Look at acquisitions across. Look at like we will launch our Saudi Arabia presence this year. So that becomes a new market that we are entering. Again, we are not going to be in 20 markets, but we feel that in the next 5 to 7 years, with access to good capital, deploying of that insensibly, getting the right kind of acquisitions, fueling homegrown talent, this whole senior partner model that we have is a recipe for a great success. We've seen it in the first phase, what I call the first phase for Yak, which has been the first 6 7 years. I think the next 6 7 years now is about doing great work
How
for
does one become a partner? Let's say tomorrow I join the organization, and should does one become a
so there are
partner by
two
choice, or he has to earn his stripes?
So there are two ways to do it. So one is by acquisition. So if we acquire, then the founder, co-founder automatically becomes partner. Depending on how senior they are, they'll become a partner or a senior partner. We also have a partner track currently within the organization for homegrown talent.
Correct.
So, for example, we recently had our offsite in London where we had all the senior partners and some of the board members there. And there we identified three candidates who can potentially be our next partners.
Okay.
Right? So that's the home goal. See, again, the organization is only 6 7 years old. So this is a new thing that we are rolled out.
That is a motivation for them to sort of
Absolutely.
look forward to and work towards that.
Absolutely. So either by acquisition or lateral hire, right? As we scale up. So tomorrow, for example, we might need a chief operating officer in the company, right? Who will come in at a partner level. So depending on how we scale up, so these are the ways that you can do it. But at the same time, the emphasis is on homegrown talent because that's what served us well. We are not in that mad thing of hiring somebody and losing somebody senior in 2 years, and then we've really gone back to where we've started. So that's integral. And also the vision of building this Indian grown large digital marketing company, which is in multiple countries, is something we now know is a reality that we can do. Right? We have seen in the first 6 7 years of our evolution that if you get the right people, match them with the right tech, and be focused on the services that you deliver and not try and do 25 other things which might sound very exciting. See, one of the challenges of building a great organization is to say no.
So,
What are the sacrifices that we are able to do? Having done all of that, we feel that the next phase, right, part two of Yap, which is the next 6 7 years, before we move out of this decade, it's really about bringing these ingredients together. And one thing that I keep telling all my partners is that we've been able to build Yap without any great stress. The typical stress that you associate with the advertising business and all of that, we have avoided that.
so it's more chill or relaxed atmosphere. It's more congenial sort of a
Absolutely. Also because it's more well-informed decisions. You know what you're going after. You're not trying to do many things.
correct.
You're trying to do what you are doing good. You want to go deeper into that. You want to continue with that philosophy. It served us well. And now we are confident that, we are on a path, while it might sound very, very ambitious at this stage of our company, but at some point, within the next decade, we can build a $1 billion company, which is an independent, Indian, homegrown, multinational company in this sector.
Oh, wonderful. Godspeed to that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Atul, as we wrap up, I was reading somewhere you're also a crypto enthusiast. And so do you invest or you just sort of follow what's happening with
No,
crypto space?
not very big in that space. It's just that I'm aware of it, and I've delved into it, but that's not something that I follow passionately. I'm more into my sneakers than anything
Right.
else.
So that's how many sneakers now.
By more into my
How big is
sneakers.
the collection?
My collection is huge. I've stopped counting it maybe last 3 years back, but I'm doing
Give us
this.
a number, 100 plus or
No, much larger than that.
much larger than,
Yeah,
oh my
yeah.
God.
It's clearly one of the largest collections that I know of. So but it's something that's been going on for more than a decade, and it's now, it's like today morning only I was telling somebody
How
that
do you sort of buy these shoes? Where do you know the fair market value? I mean, just sort of,
by now you have enough networks. The Instagram is what fuels it. During COVID, we just saw this whole category blowing up because people were just sitting at home
correct.
and not knowing what to do. And now, just because it's a subject of interest,
I was reading one sneaker company got funded by Nikhil Kamath or something.
yeah, there are lots of them. I think 2 days back also somebody got funded on Shark Tank. There's a lot of these coming in. It's a growing category. Globally, it's a huge category. The sneaker resale market globally is about $40 billion. And in India,
There
it's
was a
just
sneaker
about.
event which you guys did,
Yes,
organized, I think, last
yes, it's
year.
called the Indian Sneaker Convention, which we do with Main Street. It's a JV with them. It's a shared IP with them, but that's just a passion project that we do. And for me, remember I told you about you need to have passions outside your work.
Correct.
So this lets me meet people outside of advertising, outside of marketing. You will be amazed. Some of the largest sneaker heads in this country come from such diverse backgrounds.
Will you give us an example?
There are corporate lawyers, there are doctors, whom you would never. There are hoteliers, there are businessmen in smaller towns in India, completely diverse. Like one of my close friends, he's a merchant navy captain. But he's into this. Like one of India's top corporate lawyers, again a very close friend, has a great firm, runs his own firm. He's an absolute streetwear and sneakerhead. So the kind
Wonderful.
of people you meet are very different. Also the age group. So I meet people who are in 18, 19-year-old sneakerheads to up to 60 years of sneakerheads. So it's very diverse. It's very enriching. We try and meet up once a quarter. It gives you a different perspective. So yeah, so it's a complete passion project. I do it for nothing but the passion of it. But the amount of benefits and joy that it gives you are much beyond that.
Right,
Meeting
you
with
can imagine.
friends. So it's great.
Okay, Atul, what does YAP mean? YAP.
Okay, that's a very interesting question, right? So Yap is actually yapping, right?
Okay.
It's
Chatting.
about talking chatter, and we want to create chatter for the brands we work with.
Ah, interesting.
Okay, and that was the whole philosophy because it's new age, it's digital, and if you see today, everything is about conversations. Brands will do anything to ensure that they are part of the conversation in the consumer's life, and that's what we do for Black. So the actual spelling is yapping, which is YAPPING, and when we tried to get that, it was not available. It's actually a very large telecom company in Spain,
Okay.
which is why we changed it into YAP because the ethos is still the same. And that's really the genesis of the name. Also, we wanted a name that would stand out, where people would ask us. And then I get this asked all the time that, what is Yap? Why have you called it Yap? And we wanted a name like that. But the true meaning is that that's what we want to do for brands to ensure that they're part of social fabric, they are alive with conversations, consumers talk about them. So hence Yap.
All right, wonderful. On that note, Atul, thanks very much.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'll continue doing the good work that you do. I think it's only passion that fuels you to do this. I can understand how difficult it is, but the fact that you continue doing this is great. I don't think we have something like this for our industry, and I just hope that through this year, I'm able to get more and more interesting views from the guests that come on with the show. So all the best to you.
All right, thank you so much.